Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SA Accounting Academy. Here's a short clip on one of our previous webinars. I hope that you really do enjoy it.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Compliance and Legislation update for December 2019. Please note that today's session is a recorded session. Unfortunately, Lettie is in the hospital, so she's not able to do the training live for you today, meaning that the live Q&A time today will not be available. If you would like to ask any questions on today's content or material, please do send an email through. Please remember to add the subject MCLU December 2019 and the topic. Other than that, just the logistics for today. As always, the webinar is supplemented by this slideshow presentation as well as monthly webinar material and source documents, which of course is all of the documents that the material was based on in a zipped or compressed folder for your convenience. Remember that the training is also recognized CPD hours. Let's start with the training for today. It is the last one for the year, December. Looking at our agenda, only one item under accounting, quite a few under auditing and assurance that we're going to look at, 5 items under company and secretarial, 3 for employment law, 2 for other laws and regulations, and a whopping 21 for taxation. Of course, our big part today, the reason why taxation has so many items is there were quite a lot of tax court cases and Supreme Court cases and High Court cases that dealt with tax matters that were released by SARS in November. And then lastly, just in general news from the regulators and other general news items. Starting with our accounting session or accounting part for today, what happened in accounting during the last month? Quite a few things. The one that we're quickly going to do in detail is that there is a new guide out from IFRS on how to select and apply accounting policies. For that, I'm just quickly going to switch us over to the actual guide itself. They have a very nice summary of what the guide deals with. So I'm quickly going to switch us over to that. As I said, this guide deals with how to select and apply accounting policies. And in terms of the guide, there are 3 steps that you need to follow. Step 1 being that you would first have to consider whether an IFRS itself specifically applies to the transaction. If so, of course, that is the IFRS that you would use. The second step then would be, if there's no specific IFRS, is there perhaps an IFRS that deals with a similar issue? If so, then see if you can apply the requirements from that IFRS to develop your accounting policies. And then if there's no specific IFRS and no IFRS dealing with similar issues, of course, your last step would be to refer to the conceptual framework, which at the end of the day is the catch-all part for accounting policies. So quite an interesting guide. They do also have a lot of nice examples that you can go and look at in terms of evaluating. These are, of course, accounting policies in terms of IFRS. Right. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, just the other news from IFRS and accounting foundations. The IFRS Foundation has appointed 3 new trustees. They've also issued some IFRS standards and climate-related disclosures. There is a speech from Wilberforce, if you would like to go and read that, on integrated standard setting and on financial reporting. They're also announcing appointments to the IFRS Advisory Council. They have their monthly IASB podcast that you can go and listen to in terms of the meetings and decisions there. The IASB Research Forum discussions is also available online. There's an IFRS 17 podcast that you can go and listen to. And then just also responses from the standard setters to investors' changing needs. Of course, all of these you will find in your webinar material or in the supporting documents, should you want to go and read up on any of those. That then brings us to auditing and assurance. Quite a few items from IRBA during the month of November, quite a few important items, of course, for your auditing professionals and those in the audit profession. There we go. The first one deals with the new proposed guide for registered auditors of legal practitioners' trust accounts. So I'm sure you all are aware that in terms of the legal profession, their new act was implemented on the 1st of November 2018. Of course, there were a few sections with later effective dates, but by March 2019, this year, everything was effective. And in response to that, of course, IRBA has now issued their new guide. At this stage, it is still proposed. They are requesting comment. The comment deadline there is the 5th of February 2020. The guide will be applicable for all engagements of year-end starting on the 1st of March 2019. So that will mean year-ends Feb 2020 going forward. And of course, the guide is only over the brand new act and rules, not over the transitional period that we experienced during this year. So from next year going forward in audits, we're only auditing with the new Legal Practice Act and rules of the profession in mind. If you are reading through this document and you are looking to comment, just to quickly inform you of what the minor and major changes are. The minor changes is, of course, terminology. They had to change all the references of your law societies and your fidelity fund and so on to include the correct terminology, be it the Legal Practice Council or the Legal Practice Fidelity Fund or whatever the case may be. Also, all the references were changed to the new act and the rules. So definitely all of the references will be only over the new legislation. The major changes that you would need to look at, especially if you are looking at commenting or, well, if you are performing these engagements that will affect you. Firstly, they've prominently placed it into the guide now that there is a responsibility on the auditors to report on whether or not their attorney clients are carrying on an investment practice. Also, there's a few new definitions in, especially with regards to what is accounting records, trust records versus business records, and so on. They've also added a few paragraphs in for professional judgments and professional skepticism and how that would affect the auditors specifically in these trust engagements. They've added paragraphs for dealing with non-compliance, so the new Code of Conduct no-CLAR requirements. And then the big change, of course, that is the most important that you will have to go and look at is the new procedures. Please do go and work through the procedures in detail and comment. Since the guide is open for change at this stage, it is a good time to, if perhaps in the past you were not happy with the old procedures, some of them weren't practical, it wasn't possible to perform some of them, this is the time, right, to update that, to change that. And then with regards to the new procedures, also make sure that they are practical, that they will be able to be performed. Especially if you look at the big changes, the 5% interest on your investment accounts. So those new procedures, definitely go and take a look at that. The procedures dealing with the unclaimed monies, the unknown and unclaimed monies that has been outstanding for longer than 2 years, how to identify those type of fees, and then how to ensure that your client did pay it over to the Fidelity Fund. Thirdly, the banks that, of course, now in terms of the new acts and the new rules, if an attorney are going to have a trust account at a bank, it should be with the bank with which the Fidelity Fund has entered into agreements. So the whole process around checking that up as well. Make sure you're happy with that. Make sure you can perform that. Those are the 3 real big changes that came in now. Please do go and look at those. Make sure you can perform them. Make sure you're happy with them. They've also added to some of the previous procedures. So as I said, this is a time for change. So they did go and look at some of the procedures that are already there and maybe how to put in a bit more detail. So it may be a good idea to work through the whole illustrative procedures part and see if there is anything you would.
I hope that you enjoyed that video. For more of our webinar videos, go to www.accountingacademy.co.za. Thank you and have a lovely day.